Hello, my name is Helen Rhodes, and today I will be answering questions about the 8-part case study called The Need for Project Management Metrics, found in Dr. Kersner's book entitled Project Management Case Studies. The company's stock is at a 5-year low, and to save cash it had to cut dividend payments. Wall Street analysts are requesting information on the company's current projects and future R&D projects to determine the company's strengths. The lack of innovation in the company was its biggest weakness. The company was considered an industry follower rather than an industry leader. In reviewing project initiatives, the CEO of the company determined 7 out of 12 R&D projects failed. It was difficult to ascertain the reason for the project failures because the metrics that the company had in place only detailed time and cost. The project management office only had experience creating business-based metrics. However, it was determined they would like to start an initiative to create project-based metrics. In reviewing the first part of the case study, it is important to know that R&D is a large part of a company's strategic planning. Both R&D and strategic efforts are integral to the future growth and profits of a company. R&D is necessary to create new products and services, create improvements to existing products and services, and identify new opportunities. When a company's R&D efforts continually fail, they are devastating to the company's future. When projects fail, it is easy to blame others for the failure because people do not want to look bad in front of their peers and fear losing their jobs. The better approach is to work together to evaluate the reasons for the project failure and work together as a team to identify corrective actions. Exhibit 1 depicts 7 project failures. 5 out of the 7 projects used strong resources and the remaining 2 used average resources. Out of the 7 projects, 3 went through the entire project lifecycle before being deemed failures. 3 were abandoned in stage 4 of the lifecycle, and 1 project was abandoned during stage 3 of the project lifecycle. The information that is lacking in Exhibit 1 is it does not give you any meaningful information so that informed decisions can be made. Highly talented resources can overthink an R&D project. Many R&D projects are led by engineers instead of project managers. This can lead them to strive to exceed specifications and lose focus on cost containment. Not all R&D projects will succeed. Because these projects are research and most times are entering uncharted territories, there is a good chance they will fail. The key is to catch the failure early on so as not to waste time and money. PMO can prevent project failure through the collaborative sharing of information through meaningful metrics. This leads to informed decision-making, which increases the chances of project success. A project manager should not be encouraged to cancel R&D projects in their early life cycle phases unless they can make well-informed, knowledgeable decisions about the overall health of a project. In this case study, it was up to the executive management team to monitor the R&D projects because they go hand in hand with strategic planning. It was also the responsibility of the project engineers, marketing department, IT department, and project management office to recognize the need for a solid metric system in which to measure R&D projects. R&D engineers should have recognized early on that projects would not work and fail. As engineers, they should have been able to determine this through failing specifications. There are various levels of project failure because they are situational. A project can also be a partial success or complete success. The use of metrics provides value to the company in providing correct information for informed decision-making. Metrics are part of the project management information system, which consists of important information for project approval, initiation, planning, scheduling, execution, monitoring, and control and closure. This is an important component of project management and communication and the ability for project managers to provide status updates to stakeholders. To get R&D projects back on track, it is necessary to immediately start the process of establishing sound metrics. The executive management team should be involved in establishing the metrics because without buy-in from executive management, the information system will not be supported. It is important for the company's stakeholders to be involved in determining metrics. Metrics can be used to discover best practices in the project management processes and aid in continuous improvement initiatives. The members of the task force to set up a metric system represented the Project Management Office, Marketing, New Business Development, Engineering, R&D, and Manufacturing departments. This is a good mix, but a senior management representative should also be included. This is important because senior management is a stakeholder in the project management process and must buy into the program and understand the metric system so that expectations can be clearly understood and met. If metrics are too detailed, employees feel like they are being spied on and will be resistant to accept them. It is necessary to select metrics that are meaningful, determine how the metrics will be measured and reported, and how management will react to the information. For innovation projects, good metrics to implement would be practical metrics to include improved efficiencies, financial metrics to include return on investment, and end result metrics to determine customer satisfaction. Reporting too many metrics takes time away from team members' other work. It also becomes overwhelming to stakeholders and becomes meaningless because they cannot discern what is critical to the project and what is not. Too few metrics do not show the whole picture of what's happening in the project and become meaningless. When too few metrics are reported, critical information may be missing. The categories of the metrics include quantitative, practical, directional, actionable, financial, and milestone. Quantitative metrics include number of cost revisions, percent of labor hours on overtime, turnover of key personnel, percent of work packages with a critical risk designation, percent of actual versus planned baselines completed to date, and percent of actual versus planned best practices used. Practical metrics include quality of the assigned resources versus planned resources and percentage of critical assumptions that have changed. Directional metrics include cost variance, schedule variance, and schedule performance index. Actionable metrics include number of unstaffed hours and number of critical assumptions made. Financial metrics include net operating margins and cost performance index. Milestone metrics include percent of work packages adhering to schedule, percent of work packages adhering to budget, number of schedule revisions, number of scope change control meetings, number of critical constraints, and number of assigned resources versus planned resources. And result or success metrics include customer satisfaction ratings and project complexity factor. A metric is more of a generic measure, whereas a KPI is specific to decision-making as they act as early signs of either success or failure. KPIs reflect the CSFs of a project. Factors that determine the number of KPIs in a project include the number of information systems, number of stakeholders, and the ability to measure the information, the organizational assets available to collect the information, the cost, and the limitations of dashboard reporting. Predictive KPIs are used to predict the future of a trend, such as percent of actual versus planned baselines completed. Measurable KPIs can be expressed quantitatively, such as the number of schedule revisions. Actionable KPIs denote changes that may be required for corrective action, such as turnover of key personnel. Relevant KPIs are directly related to the success or failure of a project, such as number of critical constraints. Automated KPIs minimize the possibility of human error, such as percent of labor on overtime. Few in number KPIs are those indicators that are only necessary, such as customer satisfaction rating. There are 23 reported metrics. Out of 23 metrics, only between 6 and 10 metrics are considered KPIs because of their importance to the success or failure of the project. KPIs should be measurable. The measurements of KPIs serve to motivate the team, lead to compliance, and lead to performance improvements as well as lessons learned. KPIs are not target performance targets and should provide controllable factors that lead to action and decision making. A boundary box should stay within the project's constraints on time, cost, quality, and scope without increasing risk or altering the scope of the remaining project work. Metrics are subjective depending on the point of view. For example, the marketing department may be focused more on cost and features, while an engineering department may be more focused on quality and safety of a product. When selecting value components for an external client, the customer's input is more important as the focus should be in providing customer satisfaction. The value component change over the life cycle changes due to the way a company views value internally, the way the customer and contractor view value, updated versions of tracking software, improvements in the project management information systems, and changes in the enterprise environmental factors. A project would be canceled if the remaining development cost of the project is so high that the finished product would be so overpriced for the market and would not sell, or the project no longer is what the customer wants. A project may still continue if it is behind schedule or above cost, as long as the weighting factors can be changed. The advantage of having a senior executive shut down a project is that they have decision-making authority. The disadvantage is that they may only look at the financial end of the project and not be entirely objective in the decision-making process. The advantage of having middle and lower management making the decision to cancel a project is that they are fully invested in the project and understand it. The disadvantage is that they may not be objective and make an emotional decision rather than a rational decision. The advantage of the exit champion is that they can offer an outsider's opinion. The disadvantage is that in the future they are putting their reputation on the line. The exit champion would be an appropriate choice to cancel a project because they have an objective point of view and can make an impartial decision. They also are usually higher up in the organization and have authority to shut down the project. The exit champion will review the project and make a decision based on all aspects of the project, whether it is possible for it to become successful or indeed will be a total failure. A metric for predicting success is the leading indicators of performance desired by a company and is important to drive business value. A capacity demand metric is an example of a predictive metric. The use of business intelligence is designed to monitor and conduct surveillance to predict the future and make informed decisions. The disadvantage of predictive metrics is that they do not incorporate all possible scenarios. This concludes today's presentation. Thank you for watching and listening.